Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sporting Max. Today, we're joined by NBL legend and Sydney Kings legend, Ben Madgen. Welcome to the podcast, Ben. It's incredible to have you on. How you going?
Yeah, good, Max. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Ben. Now, growing up with two siblings who are both obviously now involved in pro sport, what was growing up in your childhood like for you?
It was great. I mean, we were very well supported by our parents. My dad ended up working for himself as a refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, so that he had time to be able to take all three kids, and my elder sister too was playing state softball and netball, so she was very handy as well. But yeah, he pretty much had to work for himself to do his own hours and to drive us all over the place. Where we grew up in the Barossa Valley, so it's about an hour's drive to Adelaide. So massive commitment from mum and dad. I can't thank them enough for where we ended up in life, especially sporting wise. I think, I try and replicate that a bit with my kids. They're only 2 and 4.
Yeah.
But Xavier wants to play soccer on Saturday mornings at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and at first I was like, I don't really want to wake up like that on a Saturday. But thinking of how I was brought up and the opportunities I had, it was an easy yes. So yeah, very lucky to be brought up in a beautiful place like the Barossa. Great community around us. Still have so many friends to this day from the Barossa. Love to go back. And it was just a really nice place for a kid. It was very outdoors.
Yeah.
We'd jump on our bike and mum and dad wouldn't see us for the rest of the weekend. We were off. I guess it was different times then, but I was very, very fortunate to have that upbringing, and I think it raised me into the person I am today.
So what were your junior basketball years like?
I started off pretty slow. So I played a lot of different sports. Loved AFL, played some cricket, played tennis, athletics. I did a bit of everything, which I really loved. So I didn't really focus solely on basketball till a bit later in life, although I played it from a young age. So, so I pretty much just played all kinds of different sports and was able to eventually choose from AFL and basketball at 17. So I played reps from, I think it was under 14s top age, so quite late compared to a lot of kids now. And it was for Eastern Mavericks, great club. They were pretty new back then. But I was able to play Division 1 throughout my entire junior career, when maybe sometimes I wasn't completely up to it because I was a late bloomer, I would say. But being able to compete against the best kids, the best junior youth in South Australia, I think really helped catapult my development as well. So I was very fortunate for the Eastern Mavericks giving me an opportunity and always being able to play at a high level.
What type of player were you as you evolved? Like we were a different player to what you were towards the back end of your career when you first started? Yeah,
definitely. I think, by the end of my career, I was known more of a shooter, but in my younger days, my jump shot wasn't that great. It wasn't until I went as a development player for the 36ers when I was about 19, and then went to college, I really developed a jump shot. I always worked on it, but I saw some photos and my elbow was out.
Yeah.
The form wasn't great. So I really worked on that over the years, and then actually spending an off season with the Boomers, and Brad Davidson was the assistant coach, and he was talking about the dip in my shot and really being able to get it off quicker. And the next season I shot, I think I might have went to Europe the next season, or maybe my last year with the Kings, and I shot my best percentage from three and ended up shooting over 40% from the three throughout my European career. So, I was very thankful to Brad. I remember shooting him a message and saying thanks for that. Just some easy tips and pointers and some drills that he showed me that I carried on. Really helped me develop my jump shot, which helped me to extend my career, to over many years.
You mentioned that first season with the Adelaide 36ers as a DP. What experience or knowledge did that give you heading into college?
It was awesome. It was my first real taste of being a professional, what it was like to train every day in that kind of setting. We had Brett Maher, Willie Farley, some guys like that were incredible players. Oscar Foreman, Jacob Holmes. So to be able to learn from those guys, I shot with Oscar Foreman after every practice, and he really helped me with my work ethic as well. He is an incredible shooter throughout his career, and because he puts up so many extra shots. But it was a really big reality check of what it was going to take to be able to make it in the pros. And I think going to college really gave me that extra further development I needed to come back and eventually play a significant role for the Sydney Kings. But Phil Smythe was a head coach and a legend of the game. So I learned a lot from him, and just being around those guys and being in the gym all day and working on basketball skills really helped my development.
So how did you go settling into college life at Augusta State University?
Yeah, Augusta was amazing for the 4 years I was there. I had such a good time, great memories, great friends, and we won a lot of games, which always helps. But when I first got there, was a massive culture shock. I'd be lying if I said I was completely comfortable when I first got there, especially the food. Everything was fried. So, I have never eaten that badly. The first few months I was in Augusta. But I learned, how to cook a lot better for myself, and tried to, be as professional as I could. With so many, you can get, double cheeseburger for like $1. It's amazing. But I love the people made it really good. They were so welcoming for me. The tennis team was full of foreigners as well, Brazilians and Canadians and all kinds of different nationalities. So we really, created a core group of friends that we still talk to this day. And then, my teammates and my coaching staff, and, it was like you've automatically got 15 new friends. So it was great. And also Robbie McKinlay, who was assistant coach at Sydney for a little bit. Now he's the NBA Academy in Canberra head coach. Or assistant coach. It was his first year as an assistant there as well. So that was a great connection. We'll be long life friends now, and I think we kind of supported each other through the first couple of months, especially when he had to sleep on my couch for a couple of months because near his apartment there was a lot of shooting going on, which for Australians that was completely foreign, but some guys would just shoot guns up into the air every night. So it was incredible culture shock in that sense, just to know, how accessible firearms and things like that. It was just part of everyday life. But for Australians, I'd never even really seen a gun before till I got to the States. So that was pretty crazy.
What did you study in college?
Business. So I majored in business management, got my bachelor, and then I ended up doing my master's at Macquarie Graduate School of Management when I played for the Kings. So I always thought it was really important to get education behind me. You could easily blow your knee out or have a horrific injury, and that's the end of your career. So I always wanted to set myself up for after basketball if it ended abruptly. So I'm very lucky to have those 2 degrees behind me.
2010, you were named the Peach Belt Conference Player of the Year. How did you view that award at the time, and what inspiration did that give you sort of transitioning into your first pro season, pro career?
Yeah, well, I thought I was pretty hot property at the time. Had a great career. I broke all the scoring records in the conference and school and had my jersey retired. But when I actually tried to get into the NBL, it was a lot harder than I first thought. Teams weren't taking a lot of rookies. They were there were only, I think, 8 or 9 teams like there is now, but a lot of teams would take, vet guys. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity for rookies. So I ended up signing with the Sydney Kings as the 11th man, almost like an injury player. Benny Knight was out injured. He was probably going to miss the first couple of months. So that's kind of how I slotted in there, and then was able to make my way into the team, the roster first, and then the starting lineup by about the middle of my first season with the Kings. So a lot of hard work, a few tears and a bit of frustration in the early days of my NBL career, but finally got there, and then, the rest was kind of history.
So what's that like working within your first season with the Kings, with guys like a young Jared Weeks or a young Kevin White, who we saw what Kevin White just did in that NBL Grand Final Series?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, they're fantastic guys. Every time they're back in Sydney, we always catch up, go out for a meal, have a few beers. They're fantastic people, got great families now. Weeksy's expecting his first kid, and Kev's got 2 kids now. So we're at that kind of stage in life where, we had to grow up. But back then, it was great to have, a couple of other rookies and youngsters that were all in the same boat. We all wanted to carve out an NBL career, pro career, and we were all working really hard to be able to make that happen. So, extra gym sessions, extra shooting sessions. It was great to have those guys along for the ride too. And, they're still going and doing amazingly well. Like you said, Kev and Weeksy, once he got his opportunity again in Sydney, he really stepped it up and showed exactly what he can do. So I see those guys playing for many more years yet.
Now, you were named Rookie of the Year in your first season with the Kings. What did that mean to you at the time?
I think it was a great reward for a lot of hard work and perseverance. I had to show a lot of resiliency throughout that first year. I got dropped after 4 games because Benny Knight came back in, and the Kings brought in Lukey Kendall, and I remember saying to myself, I was really distraught, actually. I thought my NBL career was over because, you don't really get dropped in basketball. So maybe at the end of the bench, but not to suit up. I had a couple of mates coming from Adelaide to watch me play too, so it was a devastating weekend. But we ended up having a bye, and we had 2 weeks of just practice. And I just remember going home and saying, if at the end of the day, if my basketball career doesn't work out, at the end of this season, I can say I gave it everything that I had. And I did. That 2 weeks, I was probably not the nicest person to be around for my teammates. I didn't let up, didn't give an inch. But I think that's what had to happen. And I won over the coaches to put me back in the team. And then I just went for it. I just didn't die wondering. I was aggressive. I just hustled every play. Every second that I got, I played like it was my last. And, eventually I ended up being, the starting 2-man in that first year, and was able to go on to win Rookie of the Year, where, that getting dropped, I was just hanging by a thread to even, finish the season on the team. So, it was a lot of relief, and I think it set up my career that back end of my first year.
Just your 3rd season with the Kings, you earned the NBL's Most Improved Player, plus an All NBL First Team honours. Plus leading the NBL in scoring that season. What did that sort of like? How did you look at that at the time? To be recognised as one of the best players in the league, and what area do you think you actually improved on most that season?
Yeah, I think I always had a really strong work ethic, but I think when the Kings brought in Shane Hill towards the end of my second year, he really helped me channel my work ethic into different parts of my game. I developed a step-back jump shot, quite potent. He gave me such good guidance, gave me a lot of confidence to be able to play the way that, to my strengths, I would say. Even for an example, playing in Cairns, it was a tied game, or maybe we were down by a couple of points, and I was having a shocker. I think I was 2 from 12. Couldn't throw a rock in the ocean. And Shane pulled me aside with about a minute to go and he said, "You're going to win us this game. You're going to hit your next couple of shots." So I hit my next one. I kind of pointed to him like, "Thanks, mate." And then he put the ball in my hands to win the game, and I won the game, on the next shot. And I think, for him to say that and believe in me like he did, gave me the confidence to really go out that season. And, I dislocated my shoulder after about 8 games as well. Wow. 10 games, and was able to just strap it up for the rest of the season. It kind of halted my momentum a little bit, but like Shane would always preach, we don't want any excuses. You just got to go out and do it. And I did for the rest of the season, played through, and was able to, have a really successful season. And we made the playoffs that year for the first time since the Kings had been back, more importantly. So the team success was there as well, which was even way more gratifying than any of the end of season awards.
So what's that like to work with an Australian basketball hero and legend like Shane Hill?
Yeah, it was amazing. He's such a good guy. We still catch up for dinner and go watch the Geelong Cats. He's a massive Cats fan. I was a Crows fan. I mean, I still am, but I like watching Collingwood more now because of Jack. But yeah, he's just a good guy. You see him, how much he cares for his family. With Shy and how much work he puts in with her and his other girls and Jenny, his wife. And I think from a basketball sense, he just really gave me the confidence. He pushed me. When I went, I ended up dislocating my ankle in the Boomers preparation for the 2014 World Cup, but we put in a 10-week or maybe 8-week block after the NBL season. I think I had about 2 days off. And we prepared so hard for that preparation and that those tournaments. I mean, I felt like that was going to be my shot to be able to make that World Cup team. Wasn't meant to be. Gave someone else an opportunity, which is great. But the work that he put in for me, every day we went twice a day. I didn't pay him a cent. He just did it for me. Out of the, the love out of his heart. So for me, I mean, it was just incredible to have him as a friend and a mentor and to push me to be the best basketball player I could.
Now, I read that in March 2015, you exercised an option in your contract to leave the club at Sydney and go play in Europe. How did that decision approach, and why did you decide to explore your other opportunities?
Yeah, well, after about my second year in the league, I always wanted to just try and become one of the premier players in the NBL and then explore other options, challenge myself. I think, you to see the world playing basketball and get out of my comfort zone. And I felt like if I retired and only played in Australia, I would have had like a what if kind of feeling. And once I went over to Europe and did everything, played in the Euro Cup and did everything that I wanted to do with basketball, I felt like, if I retired tomorrow, I'll be happy with my career. So, it was hard to leave the Kings. I was a captain of the team. I loved the organisation, all the people there. So I felt like I was letting them down, but they also understood that I wanted to challenge myself and to be able to, see what I could do over in Europe. And they were so supportive. I remember, having that conversation though, and everyone from the club said, go for it. We've got your back. If you want to come back, anytime, come back. We'll always keep the conversation open. So, yeah, I was just very lucky to be able to have a great organisation like the Kings in my corner.
So you signed with the VOO, or I think it's Voter Wolves, Verviers Pepinstay in Belgium.
Yeah, good job.
What are your best memories of that season in Belgium, and what was it like to explore sort of obviously a completely new and different culture?
Yeah, it was. It's a fantastic place to start your European career. My agent Warren Craig said Belgium will be great as a springboard league. It's very much very similar to Australian style basketball, quite fast paced, a lot of transition, early ball screens. And it suited me so well. I ended up leading the league in scoring, and then I went on to play Euro Cup the next season in Lithuania. So it really worked out even better than expected. And the people there, the community was so nice, to my wife and myself, welcoming. When my wife had her 30th birthday in Lithuania, about 10 Belgian friends flew over and,
Wow.
spent the weekend with her. So amazing friendship group there, and just such a great part of the world. Lithuania was a lot more difficult. I think the people there were a lot colder and not as warm and friendly than the Belgium. So, such a good first experience of Europe.
That experience in Lithuania, you went on to play a few years there at two different clubs, helping each club to make the LKL finals, Euro Cup and the Lithuanian Cup final. What were those experiences like for you where sometimes you just couldn't get the win at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, I actually played Brock Motum in my first year in a best of 7. He played for Zagros in the finals, and it was hard. Zagros are Euro League and very, very good team. They had Jaskavicius as their coach. He coaches Barcelona now, but one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in Europe. So, they had their playbook was, 50 plays, and they were so well drilled and just incredible. Anytime they needed to score, they knew exactly what they were doing. And Brock played amazing for him as a stretch 4. He fit that system so well. But yeah, it was always going to be hard to beat them in a 7-game series. Each year we were able to pinch a couple of games, but it was funny. My first year when I played for Liat Karbelis, we had a couple of brothers. They were twins, 7-foot twins, called the Brolys, the Larivanovic twins. They played at about 3 or 4 Olympic Games. They were towards the end of their career, but we won the semi-final. We were playing Zagros in the final, and we went out after the game for dinner, and one of them stood up and said, "Oh, great season, guys. Coming second is amazing." And I was like, "We haven't played the final yet." And he goes, "Oh, there's no chance we'll beat Zagros." So I'm like, "Oh, great. This is a big confidence boost." But, we gave it a crack. But, it was interesting how it worked out. But it was great to play against Brock. And it's great to see him still have an amazing career over in Europe.
2018, signing in Germany, exploring sort of more of Europe. What would you say are the biggest highlights of traveling all over the world and playing basketball?
Yeah, I think Lithuania playing in Euro Cup was definitely the best basketball I've ever played. The competition, the travel, we played from Macedonia 1 week to Spain to Portugal to Moscow. So I saw pretty much every country, which I'm so lucky for. It was at the time, sometimes it was a bit taxing. You're like, what country are we in? But I look back on it now, and even my wife and I stayed over for 2 summers and just traveled to a lot of different countries, even Morocco, Portugal. We loved it. So that was definitely the highlights. During the seasons for my family was really hard because I was away so much. So that was, massive sacrifice for my wife, which I still paying her back to this day. Will be for many years. But, I think for basketball-wise, just traveling the world, the people you meet, the places you see, I never thought I'd be playing in Moscow, for instance, or St. Petersburg, and to be able to see those cities and play in front of those fans, and it was just an incredible experience.
You return home once again for the South East Melbourne Phoenix's inaugural NBL season. What intrigued you most about signing with the Phoenix, the new club in the league at the time?
Yeah, so Tommy Greer had been talking to me for a few years prior to the Phoenix, coming into the league. And he said, when I get an opportunity, I think there's going to be a new team. Would love you to come and play. The thing that really enticed me, besides Tommy's a fantastic guy. I played against him many years when he played for the Tigers, was that I was able to sign really early. We just had our second child and we were in and out of hospital. We had RSV. respiratory virus, and we almost lost him at the start. So
Wow.
we decided let's go home after this season, and we could sign with Phoenix pretty much January, I think, where usually you would be signing, June or July. So we got a house in Melbourne, already sorted out, got everything set up. My brother and sister Tess and Jack were in Melbourne at the time.
Yeah.
So that was really inviting as well. And then talking to Simon and his plans for the team, he's a great guy as well. So it all just kind of worked out. I was, always thought I would come back to Sydney. And Jeff Van Groningen and Gazy, after every season, would ask if I'd like to come back and play. But they knew that was going to be their last year. As you know, they got bought out, so they weren't signing any players. So if it was maybe a year before, I could have signed with the Kings. But, I really had a good time in Melbourne. It was very professional and met some really great people there as well.
You guys won your first NBL game with the Phoenix against the so-called firepower Melbourne United in the first game of that season. Now, they were revved up. They had Sean Long, Mello Trimble coming into play that season. What are your memories of that night and the game getting over the line by 3 points?
Yeah, it was a massive build-up. We had a huge pre-season, probably one of the longest pre-seasons. We started quite early. Creaky wasn't there for a long time. He was away with the Boomers. But, yeah, we knew Melbourne were going to be really good. Had some great new recruits. But, yeah, I think after 5 minutes, I remember Ty Wesley pulled his hammy, and he had been massive for us in the pre-season. So I thought, it's going to be hard to cover him. But it was one of those games, I think it was just really emotionally charged. I don't think people knew how good John Robertson was yet. He played great that game too. So we felt like we had a great team. We didn't produce in the back end of the season, but it was a great first memories, I think, for the whole organisation, all the hard work that they put in, not just for us in the pre-season, but all the office staff and everyone. It was a great relief to get that first win.
What was that like to play under such a great coach like Simon Mitchell?
He's a good guy. He's a good coach, and I think it's always going to be difficult when you just chuck a bunch of guys kind of together, and the first year is always kind of like a tedious process of everyone learning their roles and different players gelling with each other. You look at Perth and New Zealand back in the day where they had that core group of players for, almost 10 years. And that really helped them make the grand final year after year, because you get that continuity, and there's so many close games in the NBL. They just help you get over the line. And last year we just lost so many close games, and that just really hurts your win-loss record at the end of the year.
In July 2020, you announced your retirement from professional basketball. Why did you decide to retire and leave the game?
Well, I wasn't planning on retiring, but my son Xavier, who's 4, was diagnosed with autism. So it was becoming really stressful for him, all the moving around, me leaving. He had severe separation anxiety, so I'd have to go on a road trip. He'd block the door screaming, and I'd have to leave. And my wife would be left there to pick up the pieces. So it was really becoming quite unfair for the family as a whole, especially Zave. So we just decided, it's what's best for Zave is what's best for the family, and I'll retire and look after the boys full time. My wife, who I dragged all over Europe, it was time for me to pay her back too. So she's doing fantastically well in her career. So she can work. I look after the boys, and now I'm working, part-time, 20 hours a week with Charity Bounce, fantastic organisation, not for profit as well. So it's all worked out very well. There's aspects of basketball that I really miss. Especially seeing your mates every day, pushing yourself to be better every day. But I think I retired at a good time too. There was the coronavirus hit, and No one knew when the season was starting, and then everyone was in a bubble, and it would have been a nightmare for my situation. So I didn't really look back, and I was super busy with the boys. You know, being a dad, a parent is, the hardest job I've ever had for sure. Basketball is a walk in the park compared to this, but I love every day. So really happy.
Now we've recently had your sister Tess on the podcast and asked her this same question. Who do you think is the best athlete in the family?
Well, it's definitely Tess. Now, I don't know what she answered. She might have said herself too, but
now she said in terms of athleticism and the best shooter, it was you.
Oh, thanks, Tessie. Well, right back at her. I think to make an Olympic Games is absolutely incredible, and it's no easy feat. She was the last cut for Rio, and I was really rooting for her to be able to make an Olympic Games before she calls it a day on her career. And when she called to tell us the news, it was the best moment. Tear came straight to the eyes. But she takes the cake for sure now. There's no debating it. Even if Jack wins a grand final, I think you still got to go with the Olympian.
What would be your best advice to anyone who wants to be a professional basketballer and be successful like yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of my success personally came from my work ethic. If I listened to all the people that told me that I would never make it, or I'm wasting my time, working out so much or practicing, I would have quit a long time ago. So I think it's a self-belief and knowing that you want something so bad that you're going to work so hard and block out the naysayers. I had a coach in South Australia called me a dime a dozen, and there was a million players just like me. I'd never make it. And I was only about 15 at the time. So so that was nice to hear. But it also gave me a bit more fire in the belly to be able to work even harder. But I think work ethic above everything. I've seen some great players in college, NBL, with all the talent in the world, but they just didn't have that work ethic to be able to stick the course. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but if you stick at it, I think, and work as hard as you can just to become the best player you can be, that's really going to help you have the best chance of being a professional. It's not high percentage of people do, but if you have that kind of mindset, you'll definitely give yourself the best chance.
Thanks, Ben, for coming on the podcast today and putting aside half an hour or so of your time to come on and have a chat. It's been an honour.
No worries, Max. Thanks for having me, mate. Love your podcast.
Thanks, Ben. Stay tuned, everyone, for some more Sporting Max.